Well, there's a lot of you. Thanks everyone for joining in to this Aus DeFi Association event. If you're not here for an Aus DeFi Association event, please stay anyway. Pizzas, beers, what more could you ask for? You could ask for more, but let's not. Before we begin, my name is Mark. I'm the president and co-founder of the Aus DeFi Association. We are here at Stone and Chalk, so we thank them for providing this wonderful space. And thanks to the folks that were able to make it down here after going to the wrong venue down in Wynyard. There was a few that, that happened to, but that's okay. This is our new home and will be for the next 12 months at least. Whilst all of this is changing, Tech Central is, the home here. There's a Sydney Startup Hub. There was an amazing announcement just recently about Stone and Chalk and Fish Burners, which you may have known as like separate venues at the old Wynyard place now, merging in terms of taking care of the Sydney Startup Hub. So that's some great news. Before I begin further, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. And we get the mood lighting here, as you can see. We've got a great event on today. There's a couple of things that are happening. First of all, I'm going to do some updates, and then we've got some great guests. Typically, we go for an hour and a half, but today we're probably going to go for about an hour and focus more on the networking. Hands up here if you knew that Token 2049 was going on in Singapore. Yep. So you guys are the ones that are here for the FOMO. I get it. I am here as well for that. Was tempted to maybe even skip this month because I didn't think that there was going to be as great a turnout, but you guys are proving myself and others wrong. So thank you for that. We are going to be doing this in Sydney every month. So if it's your first time, tell your friends and, come along for learning. The most important thing from here is not just like what you see. We record this and it'll be the networking that comes from this. I'm going to do some updates first, show you some cool stuff on the website. There's a cool competition thanks to one of our major sponsors. And you can see the sponsor names on there. You guys can, some of the folks that are sponsoring are actually here. So if you're interested in any of the names on screen, please do check that. Links, this goes to a link tree where you can see the YouTube page, the website that I'll take you through because we've got some cool AI-powered updates on there. For those that maybe don't know me, I do a lot of stuff in the AI space as well. So, it just makes sense to power everything that you do with AI. Even for my girlfriend, I made an AI-powered dinner app. So it would take in all the restaurants, we would rate things that we like, it would take into account those ratings and suggest new things. So, AI is pretty powerful when it's used for the right reasons, obviously. And then, further updates here. So let's get into it. Fableration, who is one of our major sponsors, they're out of mainly Melbourne, but they do travel a lot. They had their launch. So for those of you who don't know, they're using blockchain to help solve the problem of payments and other nefarious kinds of things that go on in the publishing space. So what ends up happening there is that, you might be an author and you write something, royalties get stripped away. Like as soon as a payment goes through for a book, you don't see that straight away. But with blockchain, you could literally have something where people are using the Fableration platform, buy your book at an airport, and you get the money straight away after obviously the fees for running that platform. But there's more immediate payments, there's less middlemen, and it's just a fairer system. And they've got an interesting take in terms of how they are looking at AI. Not to create and generate things, but more to find pattern matching in terms of what you like as a reader. So it's using AI to actually help the creative space. So that's actually interesting. Further on their launch, you can see a lot of people there. That was actually at the State Library of Victoria. So really beautiful space that they had on the side there. 100 or so people that were there. So I was lucky enough to attend. I can't remember what this link is, but if you scan it, there might be competitions because Fableration had, I think it was 3 Bitcoin that they were giving away. So a reading competition of Bitcoin, a hackathon, and then there was something else for developers and others. So Fableration is really interesting. So I think it's worth checking out. You'll be seeing a lot more of them, and they sponsor the podcast. So, that's well worth noting too. The last meetup that we had here, so this was in August, feels so long ago, but it wasn't. The person to my right, and I realize I'm wearing the same clothes as last time. That's great. I'm doing the Zuckerberg of blockchain, you know, just like pick out the same uniform. Anyway, Arturo there, my co-conspirator, creator of Aus DeFi as well, and a company that we have called Not Centralized that's doing things with Project Acacia with the RBA and others. He's off doing Token 2049. They're actually running an event tonight. Hands up here who's actually heard of a blockchain called Redbelly Network. Okay, a few of you. They're one of the ones that's in Project Acacia. They're running an event tonight as well. Hopefully we'll get some footage of that be sent through. Maybe not tonight. I'm not that technical. I usually have another person helping me out behind the camera. So I'm going to be running back and forth just to make sure it's filming right. Because like I said, if we didn't film it, this doesn't happen. The Blockies are on as well. So hands up who's heard of the Blockies, that awards kind of showcase gala galore. So you've got some really great Blockies judges here. Di Lee, the MP out of Western Sydney. Jane Fairley from Fairtrade, some folks from EY, folks from overseas as well that are flying in, expat Aussies as well that are doing other stuff. One of the judges is here, Mark Staples, where are you? Right at the back. Thank you for joining us, sir, and various others. And oh, look, there's a gentleman there on the middle bottom right. Anyway, I will take bribes in the form of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Doge. There's some really interesting different awards. I've been taking a look at, I don't know if I'm allowed to say which one I'm looking at, so I'll probably hold back, but let's just say that the contestants, there's a lot of very innovative, clever, creative, and just passionate people in this space that are all well deserving of awards for what they're doing, companies as well. And we're going to see that today because a lot of folks may not realize just how important are some of the innovations that are happening in this space around blockchain. This is competition time. So one of our major sponsors is a new major sponsor, and I have Stephen to thank for that. Stephen, thank you so much. Stephen from Kraken here. Jonathan, who is not here but was at the last event. So there's a competition. Hands up who's heard of the crypto castle. It used to be called Coogee Castle. A few of you. Okay, so Fred from Finder, finder.com.au, that guy. So bought Coogee Castle. Now it's called the Crypto Castle, and there's some cool events going on there. So you'll see a competition that you can enter for that. So there's about, I think, 20 passes or so that we're splitting between these two. That's why there's two codes. So scan one or the other. The idea is that you scan this, you sign up for Kraken, you get 50 AUD when you deposit and trade 200. But there's a bigger competition on top of that. So, you know, thanks to Kraken. And I can bring this back up if folks have missed it. I'll give 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we can come back to it if you've missed it. But once you have gone through that, you can go through to this form here where names are being collected, and there's going to be a competition later in the show. And so those winners will get a ticket to that Crypto Castle event. So hopefully we'll see you there. So I'll do it again just one more time. So both sides, if one's not, we've got two because, you know, if one's not working, you can jump on the other one. There you go. All right, a few more. And once you have gone through all of that, and I'll bring this back up later on, but you can fill out this form and then we'll run a little competition. So if you guys have signed up, you can do that. I'll come back to it intermittently. Some news that I just wanted to cover before we get to some website updates and some interactivity before the guests. Hands up who saw the major news about Independent Reserve and IG Markets, the acquisition. A few of you? Very good. So some major news there. A big international player in the space acquiring one of Australia's oldest exchanges. That bodes pretty positively for our space, wherever you are from. Another bit of news was in the regulation space, but I'd argue this is more an innovation, and that is that ASIC announced exemptions for stablecoin issuers. And what that basically means is that there's going to be a heap more innovation, at least in the stablecoin space. So what's this space? There was a few stablecoin players as part of Project Acacia. Even before that, we knew of the two that were going at that space, Katina Digital, which is now called Macropod, and also Novati, which is doing AUDD. You also got Forte Tech that's part of the RBA pilot. So stable coins are a thing. It's not just something that happens overseas. programmable money is here as well. So that was a big thing from ASIC. Another thing that we saw was that just late last week, there was out of Treasury, Commonwealth Treasury, which writes the rules for financial services. They've got their exposure draft legislation. And what that means is this is a next step towards actually getting crypto regulation. If you have one takeaway from this, there is a consultation that is open. We will open up something for Aus DeFi where via the website, if you've got feedback and you want your voice heard anonymously, or you want to put your name down, we're going to collect that and submit that as our own kind of like report, as we have done for other years where we've been close to getting regulations. So this is interesting. This gives you a chance before the window closes to get your opinions in terms of what you want for this space. Do you want to be double taxed on this? Do you want like crypto exchanges to have these rules? Custody is looked at as well. So very important things are part of this paper. I would suggest that you read it. Hands up here who already follows the Aus DeFi newsletter that goes out each week on Substack or LinkedIn. Okay, we put a lot of stuff in there. So if you haven't seen it, Australian DeFi Association on LinkedIn or Substack, you can see a whole heap there, and we'll share a lot more. We share weekly, so you don't have to just wait for the meetup to see all this stuff. I'm showing here the website. This is at defi.org.au. There's some new features that we've keep on adding in there, and a lot of it is AI powered. One of those is when you watch the podcast or these meetups, this recording will be put up on the website and on the YouTube, but it means that whilst you're watching, you can ask questions just like you see here. It means that you can have, you know what, let me just show you. I was adding in BlockV's logo, as in saw that I didn't have that on there. So when you go to the Aus DeFi website, you go to log in, you use your own email, even though my password is probably easy to guess. When you are logged in, you've got all these tiles here. So some of the things that you can do is you can go to the meetups. The last meetup that we ran, you can see here, you can play the video, and whilst you're watching, you can ask the AI questions, or you can get a simple explanation of what was happening. So all of this is just powered by OpenAI in the background. You can ask free-form questions as well. But it just means that you can just engage with the video, and whilst something's going on, you can ask questions. It's just got the transcript in the background. Another thing that I wanted to show is that, and this is old, right? But the new thing that we've got, and this was in response to a lot of people asking to bring this kind of stuff back. Early on in the association, we had something we called FUDville. Hands up who knows what FUD is, F-U-D. A few? Okay, so for the rest of you that don't know, it stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Basically critiques. There's FUD for the AI space. There's FUD for the crypto space. It's always had that. There's always new things. Crypto doesn't do this. Blockchain doesn't do that. It hasn't been proven here. And every single time we are knocking all of those critiques down. But just to help support that and using AI, here is something where you can type in or paste an article or write something down that you may have heard somewhere. And what we're trying to do is, so for example, RWA tokenization is just hype with no real benefits. You've got a few things that you can set here in terms of the tone, the detail. You can change your audience and focus. But when you hit that generate response button, it's not just going to an AI, like just to an AI model for this. We've actually got documents that are sitting in the background that have actual evidence of support for the space. And these links here take you to that. So you've got your arguments. It breaks down whatever the argument was into parts, gives you a response that can help. But not only that, because what is a response without evidence? You know, we verify, we don't trust in this space, right? So here is your verification. So actual articles that help with those arguments. So that is something new. You can try it. It works on your phone. Let me just go back to the presentation here, and we're nearly at the interviews. Speaking of the events and interviews, each month before the events, we're going to have a list of the speakers up there. I know we've only got the 2 this week. We're going to hear back from many more when token is over and we go back in October. But I think these ones are really valuable for what is happening in the space. These are 2 projects that I wish more people knew about. And when you hear it, you'll be surprised as well. In the events page, what you're able to also do is if you scroll down when you're in there, you can ask questions throughout this, and either we'll respond like now, or we might look at that later on. So you can point questions directly to the speakers or just make it general. There's the FUD Fighter, or we'll give it a different name. We might have a competition for that as well. And here is something where, as you can see, it works on phone as well. So if you go to defi.org.au, sign in. It's free, by the way. So I'm covering the cost of the tokens. Good or bad, I don't know if that's a good bet or not. Here I'm pasting something in. I can change the settings, I can type more, but yeah, it works on your phone. So you just might be out and about. There's other advocacy tools that we built to help you understand the space, to help you fight for this space, to help you, just get a better learning about all of this. And the key is that we want to give you these tools because there's a lot of great information that we learned in this space, getting exposed to it 4 years ago when we started this association. We want to share it with you. And if you've got ideas, we're open to it. Some of the things that have been built on the Aus DeFi website came out of meetups like this, okay? So there is no bad idea. We may merge it into some of the cool things that we're doing here, but we want your help. So that is that. You can check it out there, defi.org.au. Tonight's guests. So first off the list, we've got László Peter from Origins Next. We've also got Kirk Baird from Sigma Prime. But if László could come up on stage, and we'll get started with the interviews. Thank you. I'm going to come sit with you, but I'm going to do this. All right. I'm going to move a few things around just so I can be standing and sitting at the same time, which is always fun. Don't mind me. Huh? That's okay. I got it. We're going to have to share a mic because the other one wasn't working so well. But László here is the founder of something called Origins Next. But before we get into it, I would love if you could give us a bit of an intro on what's going on the screen here.
Well, you say introduce yourself as you could have a picture. Traditionally, people who don't have their TV or bio, I thought maybe do something different for a change. And also, I've been in Australia for quite some years, so that's sort of my journey in Europe, as you can probably hear it from my accent. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, just come to me because I want to repeat it exactly the same accent. So with no problem. I lived through some interesting times from wild communism in the Eastern Bloc to the fall of the wall, because in the European Union formed. Then I worked and traveled around the world, worked or around Europe. Studied my background is in mathematics and computer science. Studied at universities. My last postgrad was at MIT. And I consider myself a nerd, but a nerd that with a little bit of a management flavor. I worked across the world, as you can see, lots of organizations. And the one that we'll pick out from the intro is that in 2008, when I joined Commonwealth Bank after many years in investment banking and trading in Europe and Colombia in particular, both the arbitrage and all arbitrage markets in euros. People would think that, that could really give let down at that point in time. Although in 2008 was quite interesting because the financial crisis, some of you might remember, that's when the market melted and CBA became the top 10 bank in the world. We thought that this is the beginning of the new era for Commonwealth Bank, and we can become an investment bank for everyone, a full capital solutions for traders and clients. So we actually built an interesting equity and debt capital market business together with another banker, our CTO of that business. What was interesting that David was an angel investor later on in Octopay. Some of you have heard of that small company. And we built very interesting business. We added a 4% to the market share, and 6 years later, you saw that Goldman, it was back to realize that they are an investment that really will commercial way as such. But that was a time for around 13, 14, and a gentleman, actually a kid at that time, Orbitari, wrote a paper around his idea around Ethereum. And these data was 50, I believe, at the market when the Pentagon network went live. And in 6 he was here. We hosted him on a dog stick to sail on Sydney Harbour at Fort of the Lark Wonder. So there are some interesting elements that some of you from the OG crowd might remember around how Ethereum started. Some of the folks that look into the new kind of technologies like Quantum, CB was one of the first one that invested in about $40 million into the new silicon-based chips that hopefully will come to see coming live. So we see the crypto craze, so we in the AI craze that tomorrow both fight, but here we are botting craze. That just a prediction that was coming. Subsequently, it was quite easy to see how the market evolved after that. In Ethereum craze, we started mining at its CBA. Ether is with 16 around fractionalizing shares, which was a quite interesting time in this way. Long story short, CBA, I changed the jobs to KGG. Some of you might know me from the big consultancy. It's my tool was to build a new business model for a traditional firm by using recurring technologies and recurring revenue for them, as well as to create the blockchain credits for the Asia Pacific region. It's in Hong Kong, both in crypto, it's in Cayman, both encoded for the large funds. We were the first one to launch the crypto case corporate for higher independent reserve with Ethereum. Basic stocks, large scale the business, so it's quite interesting. So traditional firms can actually be quite interesting stuff, not at the level that you see here with a startup, but there's a very interesting balance in these careers where you find access to capital, access to large organizational structures, and learn how to navigate that to move into a new era where you leverage the brand, leverage the capabilities, of being able to build some credible tech that is not being associated with CPAs or the large or the SIP calls. So I love those.
Fantastic. Is that work? That's not coming. It is? I can't tell my own voice. That's crazy. I'm sorry. In any case, I think it's really interesting that it has come out of like not just a corporate, but a big corporate, literally one of the big four. People typically don't associate innovation with a place like that. So certainly you would have had to navigate that. So it's great to see, first of all, like we always want our expectations broken. But I think this next, by the way, we see Origin up here on screen. Do you want to give a bit of quick kind of high level background on that before we get to the questions?
Yeah. So last year, one of the project that, or the businesses that we built inside KPMG was create we created a new business model that was twice relevant for Big Four. And the business that we called KPMG Origins was around traceability as well as the use cases using distributed technologies. And last year we spun the business up, given that working in the Big Four has some advantages. One of the biggest opportunities in any business or any startup or the likes is to be able to acquire clients. Now we're at 25% of the global market is off minutes because they're only clients for the Big Four who want to KPMG. We talk about 25% of the world is a companies. So it creates a limitation in what we can do, especially when you're looking at traceability and supply chains, where you're trying to map up long, very complex supply chains in particular qualities. That's one of the catalyst moment where, because I built up my duties of KPMG and created a independent startup now, Origins Next, to be able to move and have all the idea for the Big Four and create a brand new independent company, still probably with KPMG, a lot of investors, very minority investor, but to take the business to the next level. And that's the foundational story around Origins and where we're taking it next.
That's great. I mean, another great kind of project that we've seen that's had similar origins where it's from academia this time and had limited growth that it could have in academia. It started there, was thought about there, was founded there, but it had to spin out to grow. And that was Redbelly. And great to see, a similar kind of path. Originsnext.com is the website. So, check it out on your phone now. You can see some cool things that the guys are doing there. And obviously the website here on desktop. But you've kind of just alluded to that spinning out from like the big four firms, so that you could have more of that independence. What does that mean for you guys as a business to be able to have more independence?
Well, these are good things on one side, and these are limitations on the downside. The upside is that you can pretty much access anyone in the market. Clients are furiously we're off limits because of the limitations of independence. For those of you who don't know, if you audit a firm as a big four, when you do financial audits, you're not allowed to do business with those organizations. So there are non-negotiable things. You can't talk to them.
They used to be able to let you do that, and then we had something called Enron in 2001, and Arthur Anderson, which, for those that remember, for those that don't, there's something on YouTube for you. But yeah, so further on the independence.
So the independence is that when you come to business, so being able to scale the business, to have access to clients, opens up a significant market. Not to mention that organizations like KPMG, who have a very well respected, a very noble blends, figured out from it, even if it has a new name, has what KPMG in it.
It's
a science to know that.
It's not in tiny writing, like tiny, like 2-point font powered by KPMG. Not there. Okay, good.
You got people that are in there, or the IB and everything else is. We have some very solid ties, and currently we're actually working on developing that relationship more extensively in new commodities world. So for those of you who haven't Googled it, yes, we are focusing on traceability and supply chain compliance, mostly commodities markets, like large markets. Think about, when talk about commodities, I'm talking about real world assets in soft commodities, like agriculture, hard commodity like minerals, energy commodity like hydrogen and ethanol in particular, or manufactured oils or sugars. And within that range, there's an incredible amount of regulatory compliance that's coming in. So deforestation to traceability for regulatory compliance around battery power sports, critical minerals, the list goes on.
This is just like mostly out of Europe, is it?
So the EU Deforestation Regulation is impacting around 300 billion words per year of commodities, which is a quite significant impact. We're going live not this December, but December next year. And implies that every time you are importing commodities in the European jurisdiction, you would have to demonstrate 5 years back with satellite imagery or polygons that you are not taking it from before some lab. Now, I don't know about foreign in Australia, which is pretty advanced, but I've seen some stuff in South America that is just mind-blowing. Really.
I think it's really cool. And, you know, speaking of the different industries that you've got, like the real world stuff, construction, regulated waste has been mentioned. What have you learned about getting to know these multiple sorts of stakeholders? It's not just them, it's like regulators, it's businesses, it's insurers as well, which, you know, that's a very important thing to solve for many industries. If it can't be insured, it's probably not going to be able to take off. What have you learned from them to actually adopt and trust basically blockchain systems?
It's a very interesting point you're making. For those of you who don't know, we used to operate as KPMG, the whole construction sectors for the building trustworthy indicator that the client was the government who was rolling out the global sector. Subsequently, we are in the waste sector for these seaboard of Australia, all the regulated waste applying on diners. So they thought real world in essence, like not derivative like bonds or financial instrument, but tires, regulated chemicals, thinking about building materials, bricks or timber. Quite interesting. So in terms of creating a trustworthy indicator by combining together all the components that go into a building into a complex mathematical model or where Bayesian network risk analysis will be able to derive the resilience rating of these assets. So being able to trust that, you have to trust the data that goes in, understand the whole sequence of events that contributed to creating of an asset, and then custodial arrangement, like who took custody of those assets, what kind of certification regimes. And I think what we learned to your question is there's an element of how much can you trust data that goes into this kind of environment, network, multi-sided platforms. And the more emphasis you put on understanding the the value of trust, understanding this new currency, the better it is for these kind of environments where governments, insurers, banks, large builders, and ultimately consumers will look at this and say, well, actually, can I trace it back? What did the building? What kind of materials we use? Were the builders really qualified, certified builders? And when they actually assembled the materials on site, was the certification regime really in line in compliance with LCD and Building Code or the waste management applications or the EPA laws? So we had to create some very interesting translations of the regulation that was printed into some small contract equivalents in order to overlay on top of the certificates that we're seeing, to the data that we're seeing, to create an output that people will trust.
Is there any smart contract developers here in the room with us? Anyone that's worked with Solidity, all the cool things like that? A few of you, very, very good. It's okay to admit it, folks. Even if you know, in the future we'll vibe code smart contracts. Of course, you'll need to verify it. Just because the AI is outputted, doesn't mean you can trust it. But I'm saying that just because you need to understand where your code is going. If you can a really great application is in what you've just said, understanding regulations, because the stuff that is boring, that just doesn't get done, it's too much cost to track and trace everything, so we don't do it. Well, guess what? Well, with blockchain, if it's smart and it's automated, and we can have, say, AI over the top to help always have human verification, but if you can have AI to help the process, we shouldn't have excuses. And I think you're showing that, blockchain can be at the forefront of this kind of revolution.
I'll give you an example. We're currently working on, in order to import commodities into Europe, as I mentioned, by the regulation, you have to create agents that can design an allocation of the inventory. Imagine that a boat is parked at port, waiting to be filled with commodities. Now you need to know where you pick your commodities, which shed number 1, shed number 2, shed number 3, to be able to put it into the boats. Before you put it into the boat, to figure it out where those commodities came from. Are they really coming from deforested land? Because once it's on the boat, it's game over. So if the boat is already out in the sea, and then you realize that, oopsie, some of the traceability is telling me that the cargo is compromised, you can't take it to Europe anymore. You have to take it to China or Indonesia. So if you've seen the news with China and the trade war with the Americans, that China is not buying soy anymore or makeup, that's about the cost $300 billion problem a year type of announcement that just came in this morning. So that suddenly you see these implications of understanding the value of this kind of smart contracts or the value of this kind of predictive models. Talking about AI, but it's not really AI, it's more good old-fashioned machine learning.
There was AI before ChatGPT, just to remind folks,
Actually, so it was really around. And actually, there are really interesting models that we can use machine learning on from data that we trust to be able to predict or advise some of these operators in DeFi or the oracles of these cakes to be able to allocate the inventory before.
Speaking of trust, you spoke about trust as a service. In practical terms, who do you think pays for that trust, and what kind of business models make traceability sustainable? Because it's one thing to do it, and we've seen many a blockchain projects, something happens, it's one-off, but it's too costly, it's too hard, it's too technical to continue doing it, and the value is in the consistency. So, how do you actually make traceability sustainable with all of this?
As a fascinating part, we borrowed the business model from the Capital One. It's actually can be claimed as our innovation, but in the popular fashion, capital markets, you would have the maker-taker law, where if you make liquidity, you're rewarded. You could take liquidity, pay for it, and if you apply that to this type of distributed environments, where they say, well, if I'm distributing my data, can I be compensated for that? Can I trade my data, because that's actually valuable when you think about compliance or traceability. And then if I'm taking data, which means that I'm meeting my obligations towards selling goods, and the data is really the quintessential part, then the make-or-take model creates a commercial model that we can implement in a more fair, and in this case, the more incentivized way. The incentive structure is the one that drives technology the whole way around.
It's really interesting because I work a lot in the AI space, and people think about how do we get our guys to like do this, do that. You're talking about an incentives model, and a lot of what crypto has been about, whether it's NFTs or something else, has been about incentives. Sometimes it's not so great incentives, but designing incentive systems is something that is very important to think about. Just on a next point back to Australia, as you can see, they're keeping talent and projects in Australia. I don't mean it from just like, hey, you should stay here. I mean the fact that, there's a lot of innovation that happens in this space, and many a project that is globally recognized is not so well known in Australia, unfortunately. But we've got strong technical talent, many great people in the room. I've heard conversations, I've spoken with some of you. I'm still yet to speak with others, but always keen on the story. I'm a networker. I'm a bit of a hub here, so very happy to connect you with others. But we often struggle with something called scaling. Adoption is a big thing as well. What do you think needs to change from a policy, corporate culture, incentives even kind of space to keep projects like Origins next, not just here in Australia, but to feel like they can develop out of Australia? Sure, projects grow, and that is great, and they should. They should grow, manifest, have offices in multiple locations, but it's different to many projects where they feel like they just can't be here. And that's just not great because we've got a great market to innovate in. I would rather innovate in a market that is safe than be forced to have innovation because I'm in a place where currency is inflating at a couple of 1,000% every day. But what do you think about all of that? Sorry for the long-winded rant.
I think you're right. Couple observations. I don't think I have a silver bullet. I'm still okay, although I'm wondering. Australia is a very small market in a sense that it's a bad market. I mean, I love living here, but it have 4 banks, 1.5 circles, and
isn't it 1 and a quarter? Anyway, I want to talk about the other one.
Yeah. But businesses need 2 things, and the first one are clients, and the second one is also bias. So if you think about the small businesses here to thrive, you need to have access to a much bigger pool of potential clients to be able to survive. And people think that for businesses to survive, first of all, need capital, which is true, that you need capital, but you need capital because of the lack of clients. If you have clients, you have a much better chance to actually surviving or making the runway or extend the runway. I spoke to maybe 20 VCs here in Australia as they're spinning it out and looking for capital and so on. It's quite disappointing, I must say. And there's no reflection of Australian market, but it's very small-minded. You talk to VCs here versus VCs in Singapore. The main difference is with this experience as I'll be big some 2 years time and 1 year or 6 months, how do you return? And it's like, okay, can we got like other pay or we don't care, like I can pump myself that fast, no problem. In Singapore, on the other hand, you will find that there was how would this look like to make these plates the next hub, and in 10 years time we will dominate this. And is there like a $20-30 million looking for, or like the parcels are very different because the effort is probably the same in terms of what kind of creativity. So creates an environment of incentives or commercial incentives that organizations would have to weigh, say, do I operate from here or do I move? Now, I'm in a lucky position that I can operate from here, although most of my business actually is in America these days. I have a partner. So we are actually innovating not on the technology alone, but we're innovating our distribution halls. So how do we create channel partners like Urban Scope Model, in which we have hubs in 3 major hubs in the world, like South America via Brazil, via Sao Paulo, in North America by Canada, Vancouver, Europe via Belgium, and Singapore in the region, to be able to create those hubs empower them and get the distribution rather than trying to be there. And I think sometimes innovation on the business model side is seldom overlooked or underestimated because we're focusing very heavily on the technology.
We often do that. And getting to the final question here, give me one sec, about opportunities. And I think that, a big thing that everyone wants to know is, crystal ball, where's Bitcoin going to be? I think it did rise recently, but anyway, where do you see the next... Okay, damn it. Ask me later, I'll tell you where it goes. The next big opportunity for blockchain in regulated industries, which is what we're talking about here, where do you see that? Is it supply chains? Is it ESG? Is it digital identity that we see? Even Australia's looking at something called Trust Exchange to help with a digital ID. Keep an eye out on that. Or is it somewhere else entirely? Where do you see that next big thing?
I think the world's going through quite a significant change in terms of deglobalization, quite a lot of disruption, and erosion of trust by institutions. I think in this climate, there will be a new currency that will be driving a lot of investment. And this new currency is actually trust. Digital trust or infrastructural trust and so on. So I'm driving my business towards creating this infrastructure of trust that organizations can then build on, especially in a cross-jurisdictional sense. Sometimes we take a very parochial view or a jurisdictional view, or this is my page in my country. You see the news in the media, there's about me and me. But more and more, we see that kind of deglobalization and the regionalization of efforts. At the same time, those organizations will rely on a much stronger, although to some extent concentrated collaboration with other jurisdictions to be able to establish trust, right? Because we still trade and we have to trade. We still exchange value. We still do payments in a cross-border sense, and so etc. So creating a new infrastructure of trust, regardless of the distributed ledgers or AI or whatever, it's a combination of technologies that will have to come to play in order to combat things like cyber, which is the next big horizon, and regardless of how we think about it, that will be almost inevitable. Any organization, any business that you build, you have to plan for the fact that you will be hacked. Guarantee. There's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is plan how to respond it, because that is inevitable that you will be hacked. So I'll need to tell you that. How do you create on top of that the trust that you continue to operate in that environment?
Speaking of trust, I trust that you guys will be around for the networking. Any questions right now for László before we get to the next speaker? Questions? Speak now, forever hold your peace. We'll get back to it in the networking. Oh, yes, a question over here. Go ahead.
Hi, László. I'm interested in your thoughts about the quantum explosion, because you obviously have a good perspective from KPMG and your career trajectory generally. So what do you think is coming next?
There's a lot of investment going into hosting for a bit of bad reasons. One is about catering for the next generation of cyber capabilities and being able to increase efficiency. I take a more positive and optimistic view of quantum around drug discovery and being able to create new materials out of it as a next horizon. And there are two schools of thought. One is around the silicon-based and phosphorus-based quantum computers that are following the same architecture as the standard computers that we see today. And the other one that probably will require slightly different analytics DCQ, which is the more advanced one you see others are developing that will require more and quite significant infrastructure change. But both of them will have common trends, such as the development of new type of operating systems being able to create quantum-resistant encryption, so the new types of technologies that are coming in that will be quite the biggest. We did quantum-resistant encryption 8 years ago. We were already developing some of those things long time, and so I did not follow recently, but I think AI will pave the way for how much investment will be sucked in, and currently we see quite obscene amount of investments being sucked into shampoos, which is questionable in terms of returns. Quantum, on the other hand, would be a very significant and equally effective technology that will drive investments in, first of all, but also quite a lot of development because of new type of infrastructure.
Great question. Speaking of, there is going to be some closer things that we're going to do with folks that are in the quantum space, because it really does affect DeFi, blockchain, crypto, etc. So great answer, great question. Thank you so much. Thank you, László.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. All right. I am just going to go back quickly to the competition slides before we get to Kirk. So let me just bring that back to give you guys another quick little chance. If you haven't signed up for that, you can. I'll leave it up for a few seconds. You got this, David. Really? Goodness. Steven, see David, he's right behind you. And then if you have signed up, oh, yep, bring it back. The QR code isn't what, yeah. Good old technology. Steven's going to try it just quickly. Is it working on yours? Because it could be your operating. Have you tried turning it on and off again? Yeah.
I can
Yeah, Steven will come down. To those, put your hand up after this if you didn't get a link, because for those that did, if you scan that code, there's a full. No, fair enough. Okay, well, look, if you could give us a bit of background about what led you to working with Sigma Prime, what were you doing before? What do you do? Who are you?
So I'm one of the directors at Sigma Prime. I started out my career as a security engineer. I got into security by uni. I was doing software engineering and accounting. Worked as an accountant for a while, decided that was rather boring. Sorry to any accountants in the room. Wasn't for me. And then decided to go down the software engineering cloud. My degree on theory, one of my lecturers was starting up a company called Sigma Prime at the time.
Sorry, I just got to turn this on. Sorry, folks. I don't mean to manhandle the guests. I just need to get this on film. Anyway.
Beautiful. Yeah. So my lecturer was working at Sigma Prime, starting up a company with some of his other co-founders. And he came along and he did a guest lecture at my university. And from there, I got along with them. We went out for drinks after class and I was like, what do you guys do? What is this Web3 space? Why is it so interesting? They gave me the whole spiel and I was like, that sounds great. Let's do it. Hire me. And they're like, great, you're on board. You're our intern.
You accepted it a lot better than I when I was like working in an investment bank and one of the other researchers said, I'm mining this thing called Monero, and I just said, run away. I didn't know about it. And I took a negative view on it, so I'm glad that you felt more positive.
Yeah, no, absolutely positive. It sounded like a lot of fun. So what did the company actually do from there? We are a two-facet business. At the time when we started, there was absolutely no one in the Web3 space who did any sort of security whatsoever. There were 3 other companies who were thinking about it, and we made ourselves the 4th. And from there, we started out smart contract auditing, getting into Solidity. It's a great language if you want to get into a language. Solidity is a lot of fun. After that, we expanded further into other languages. There's another big blockchain language called Rust. It's pretty popular out there. And so we started getting into Rust as well. And at that point was not long before Ethereum started to split. Those of you who know about the merge and proof of stake and getting rid of proof of work, which is horrible for energy consumption and absolute waste of time. We got to that point and we said, yes, let's start trying to make Ethereum better. Let's stop wasting power, stop wasting energy, and actually make these things efficient. So we started building one of the consensus clients called Lighthouse for Ethereum, which is growing up today. We're very proud of it. And it now makes about 30% of Ethereum blocks use Lighthouse, which is actually the sweet spot. Any more than 30%, and you actually start to stop finality, and it has problems with consensus. So you really want to count yourself at about 33.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that I saw, and I was like, this blew me away, that you've got this project, this group of folks, researchers, developers out of Australia that basically built a system that runs 30% of Ethereum, technically. The nodes, the blocks that are created on Ethereum would not run without Lighthouse. So I think it is pretty amazing there. And you see a few screens here. There's Sigma Prime's website, sigmaprime.io.
Correct.
Or one word, sigmaprime.io. Check that out. That's animated, by the way. I just had to try to take the screenshot when I could. So apologies if the pixels are a little off. Cool animation, by the way. So you can see some of the things here: info security, Ethereum consensus, research and development, which is where I kind of like saw the initial thing. But you guys, we'll get into the security side a bit more. But in terms of like, the questions there, the Lighthouse and, Australia's role in all of this. Some of your co-founders are not here. They're at Token 2049. Again, I'm mentioning that just so I don't feel so bad about not being there. But what do you think about like the role that we have here in Australia and what you guys are doing with, Sigma Prime?
Yeah, absolutely. As much as we think we're a tiny little country, Australia punches well above its weight in the Web3 world. There's been a lot of big projects. We got Immutable, Peer2, Synthetics, Hashlock. We have a lot of big players in this space. And then on top of that, you started to add in people like Project Acacia, the UNSW, Redbelly, UCID, ANU, a lot of academia and other projects that are growing here. It's clear that the fact that our universities are getting involved in here and starting to develop projects, that Australia actually has its head in the right place. It's willing to put the mental resources to work and start to improve it. So I think it's a bit of a fallacy when people are like, oh, Australia's just a little player. Sure, we don't have the same amount of funds and we don't have the same large investments that a lot of other people get. But in terms of the mental capacity and output, it's far above what we should expect for a tiny country.
And I think it's clear to see from your project, from László's as well, that, there's a lot of smarts and innovation in this space. And whether you're finding like a hybrid way of working where, you're here, but you've got partners overseas, like László's working on with Origins Next, what you guys are doing with your team kind of spread out and the global impact that you've had. I think there's real key kind of insights that you can learn from following on like the story. Look, I was going to say the origin story, but that's László's thing, your origins story. Now, just further on the next part around security gaps, we're seeing fewer pure smart contract hacks, but more off-chain. So if you don't know, it's when you see some of these, so-and-so got hacked, and it was because the founders didn't check the keys properly, aka Bybit hack, and they just click sign on something because the interface showed them just the start of the key and the end. They didn't check like the whole thing. And there was software out there that, made it look like it was your key. You have to be very careful. And even more so when we get to quantum, right? But a lot of this kind of stuff happens off chain rather than actually it's the blockchain. And yet we are all painted with that brush. Crypto is bad. Here's another bad thing. Who's heard of a website called Web3 is going great? Has anyone heard of that? Hands up. It's okay. It's okay. You can admit it. Look it up. Okay, Web3 is going great. All one word.com. It's an anti-Web3 kind of person, computer science researcher, but it is great because all these things that you see there just show you the things that we shouldn't be doing in the blockchain space. They think that it stops us from wanting to do this, but in fact, it reinvigorates and helps us. But yeah, on security gaps, I'll get back to my question. What are the biggest gaps that you see in terms of in teams like security thinking today? I know that you could go into deep on this, but what are some of your thoughts there?
Okay, yeah, this is probably my specialty of the company more than anything, being a security engineer before I became a director. But yeah, smart contracts have actually matured a lot. People have started understanding that you will get hacked if you just test in production and just vibe code your Solidity contracts. you will probably get hacked. And so the security processes, people are getting their audits, they're getting security researchers in, and they're looking through these things thoroughly before they put them live and put any actual money into these things. So we've seen huge improvements there. The maturity has gone a long way in the past, 7 or 8 years since we've been doing this. However, what is still easy to hack is people. Operational security. It's very easy for someone to not pay attention to what they're signing and accidentally sign away a lot of money. It's very easy for people to leave their laptops open at conferences and someone walk along with a USB and put it in. It's as easy as that. You just put one USB in, it'll do all the work itself and extract the private keys. These are the type of things that are starting to be exploited now by North Korea mainly, but a lot of other actors around the world who like to work without morals. They're just doing it purely for a financial basis. And because they see that the human is currently the weakest point, that's where they spend the least amount of time to get the most amount of money. That's what they're going for.
Have you guys heard of this? There was a hack where these people thought they were having a meeting with the CFO of their company, and it was not the CFO. It's these sorts of AI hacks, or having, not even like a crypto related hack, but you hear about some of these things where a mum gets a call and they think it's their daughter, and they've been able to replicate that using tools like, I forget the name of it, but I've got a subscription. I pay $5 a month, but it's the one that replicates voices. And, they think their daughter's in trouble, send money, that sort of thing. We've got to be like so careful about a whole heap of this stuff. But interestingly, as much as AI helps blockchain, and also in this case is trying to fight the human mindset and try to get around our protections, there's also blockchain helping AI on the other side, and we'll get more into that. But before we go into it like a little bit further, something I do want to talk about, and this, I was lucky enough to go to the announcement of this, I think last year or the year before, I can't remember, it was at another venue, great talk. Seal, not the singer, unfortunately, I was very disappointed. But the Seal Alliance, Seal 911, this initiative you guys are involved with, how does industry coordination kind of change the way we respond to hacks and protect users? But first of all, what is Seal?
Yeah, so Seal is one of those things where we realized that there was not enough maturity in the security of this industry. And so a lot of the big security players all got together under Samsung and decided that we need to work together to improve everything we can about security in this industry. That's not just smart contracts, that's everything from operational, how do you run a business, how do you keep your private key secure, how do you actually set up organizational structures, permission structures, everything. Their whole shebang. It pretty much tells people how to do it. And then on top of that, they have decided to set up 2 other really helpful features as well. One of them is Whitehat Harbour. So if you're a security researcher or a hacker and you see a protocol has a really big bug and you're like, I could drain this entire protocol, but how do I do this safely without some attacker doing it first and beating me to it? What Whitehat Harbour is in its address, you can drain the protocol, you send it to Whitehat Harbour, and they've got legal registrations there, a whole bunch of contracts that say that we will not sue you if you take the money out of our protocol, put it there. Whitehat Harbour transfers it back to the actual protocol that got hacked, who can redisperse it to their users.
So you can safely get hacked.
You could safely get hacked. It is the way to safely get hacked without actually stealing money from anyone. So that's Whitehat Harbour. On top of that, they have Seal War Games, which is where you can ask Seal, I believe it's free of charge, to attack your company, essentially. Put you in war games. What happens if there's an attacker currently trying to intrude your systems, how you behave, what you will do. And Seal being run by security researchers, we know what we're doing. So we're actually going to try and hack you as best as we can without stealing anything on your mainnet or doing any damage, of course. And that's a good way to test what your defenses are like in practice. So that's the purpose of Seal War Games. And then the last, and I think the most important, is Seal 911s. If you haven't actually done your Seal War Games and for some reason you're getting hacked, what you could do is go to Seal 911, just like you would normally call 911, and they're going to give you all sorts of advice like, oh, this is what has happened, this is how you stop it, this is how you stop the attacker doing more damage, and this is the best things you can do for your users.
Fantastic. Get on it now. Or, find out more with Kirk after. I mentioned AI and Web3, those worlds colliding. What kind of new attack surfaces, we've kind of mentioned a few there, but are you most concerned about, and how do you think teams and people here should prepare?
Yeah, it's a bit of an arms race, in my opinion. Whatever new tool can be used by both parties, attackers and defenders. So as AI gets better at finding security bugs, that can help us as security researchers protect against protocols, but at the same time, it can help attackers find security bugs in other protocols. On the whole, security tools normally make the world a better place because developers can apply these tools. They know what they are. If these are big and effective, the developers will apply these tools, and therefore the security will be applied before the attackers have a chance to make the most of these. That is where we see the good, I think, but there's a bit of bad, and the bad is the scamming, the deep fakes, the impersonating people, the making websites that look real. They can really well impersonate websites if you don't check your URL anymore. It can look exactly like a regular old Combank app. You go in, you type in your username, you type in your password, and then they've got access to your actual Combank behind the scenes. So there's a lot of attacks that are coming out there by AI, and even when these tools do come out, I forget its name. It might have been Fireblock or someone. They produced an AI specifically for finding security bugs. And within a few days, the attackers obviously went and started trying to weaponize this. And so it's anyone's game right now who's going to win. I would say the good guys will win long term because we can start applying these tools early on. But right now, it's something that's in the attacker's hand and everyone needs to be wary of it.
Sounds like a game of cat and mouse. Interestingly, and this is not on the questions list, I'm just curious because it's not often that you have as experienced a security researcher as yourself, Kirk. But, you know, something that often happens in this space is you kind of have the worlds collide in terms of your mind. How does this help the other side? And we've heard about blockchain getting help from AI. But on the other side, so for example, not just AI getting help from blockchain, but just in general, imagine that you sign up for a crypto exchange. And when you first sign up, that exchange has to send you and work with you to create a zero knowledge proof that only that exchange could have signed at the initial time. So that because this kind of hack has happened where someone got like a message from what they thought was their exchange, didn't properly check it. It looks exactly the same. The website looks great, but it wasn't the exchange. Sent money, drained. But if a scenario like that happened, but they have to actually use that same zero knowledge proof from the start to really prove it was them, could something like that technically, obviously there's devil in the detail, but could something like that kind of help, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a field kind of public key cryptography in general that you're getting into here. Is that if you can see what the exchange's public key, they could send you messages and you can confirm this message definitely came from that person, unless someone's a very advanced cryptographer and managed to break this without telling the rest of the world. But then they're not going to be looking at your messages. They're going to be making a lot more money elsewhere.
Okay, fair. Someone go create it. The last question for now before we get to audience questions and the back to the prize stuff, but a founder's checklist, essential security practices. What are your kind of top, let's call it, don't ship without this security practices that you think the lovely people here, and obviously folks on the recording should know?
All right. First, don't ship without reading the SEAL website. It'll tell you everything in far more detail than I can tell you in 5 minutes. But the 5-minute version is two-factor authentication on everything. I really mean it. It saved me personally sometimes when somehow I've lost passwords and they've got hit and then they can't get through the two-factor authentication. Second, do not use your mobile phone as a two-factor authentication. SIM swapping attacks are very easy to implement. You can get access to someone else's phone number very easily. It's surprisingly easy. If you wanted someone in this room's phone number, all you need to know is their service provider and their phone number, and you'll probably be able to get it. Other things, get your security audits. Everyone knows that. Permissions. Give your employees the smallest number of permissions as possible. Vet your employees. We have had people apply to our security company who have genuinely been North Korea agents. You can see it's fake, deep faked, and we're like, who is this person? We look them up. And conveniently, SEAL now has a list of all known North Korean agents. They have exposed them, and they've just put in their photos along with every other bit of information you can find about them up on their website. It's quite a fun read through. They do take the mickey out of it. And these are genuine North Korean agents.
Can I ask, just pausing on that part, I've seen, and it wasn't just for blockchain, but it was like just any kind of tech company where the team was asking the person on the screen, can you just put your hand up in front of your face? Because it was like some AI filter to make them look like someone else when they were clearly, it wasn't them, and they wouldn't put their hand up because it would break the seal, so to speak. That kind of stuff.
Exactly that. That's happened to us. Unfortunately, as deepfakes get better, they're going to be able to get around this pretty soon. But for now, we can tell soon it'll be much harder. So you're going to have to do a lot more vetting of your incoming employees.
Anything else in the list?
I think I've gotten everything I can think of off the top.
Just one thing there that you mentioned, I'm curious about that. You said no 2FA, two-factor authentication, Google Authenticator or whatever.
So yes, no.
On your phone.
No, your physical phone number.
Oh, okay. Don't do that.
Google
Okay.
Authenticator is the solution.
Good.
Please use that.
Okay. Yeah. Do the opposite of what Mark was about to say. I think that it is important to have this kind of stuff. And when it's so easy nowadays to vibe code an app. I'm not even talking about crypto stuff, but yes, I don't have 2FA on the Aus DeFi website. I'm going to sort that out straight after this. But any questions from the audience here, over here? No? Oh, okay. Stretching right up the back. It's a good stretch. Yes, it is. Right here.
This is more of a general security questions. Okay. I think what we're concerned right now is that we are seeing a lot of emerging technologies that could scam people. Like mentioned a few already, like deepfake and duplicates, AI voices and all that. But we also have a lot of like the older generations, like the baby boomers. They can't keep up with the technologies and all that. We need to know how. Okay. And like I have my mom who believed everything that she's seeing YouTube, like with AI generate content alone, and I kept telling her it's wrong, it's wrong. You need to do double check or something. How are we going to educate the older generations that just can't keep up with all these technologies? All it.
Great question.
I don't know how to solve
that. I don't think it's something that happens alone, right? Like it's something that industry wide needs to do this. There was a great, so speaking of fakes, scammers that call people and say, hey, we just need to check your computer or this service or whatever. Can you just install this thing? It's TeamViewer or something where they can actually get control of your computer to do something nefarious. And sure, it was great over COVID when I was like going down the rabbit hole of flat earth videos. I don't believe in it. I just think they're funny. But flat earth videos and people doing COVID scam, sorry, not COVID scam, but like scam phone call attacks where they would hack into those folks that are doing that. That's a costly kind of thing. So some folks, I think it was O2 in the UK, like a phone company, that built an AI bot that would take its time sounding like the type of person these hackers would want to hack, and just waste as much time as possible because it's AI that's doing it. So that's like one thing that helps. It doesn't solve on the education side or the interfaces actually having these protections. I mean, one thing I would love to have is that in your phone, and it's just a switch for folks like my parents that wouldn't know this, and they've sent me stuff and I'm like, that's so fake, right? I wish that there was something that could just be switched on, which would just tell them, hey, you might want to be careful of this because it is easy. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, it's getting better and it's getting harder to detect these things. Early days, we could use certain types of AI to detect the other AI, but it's failing now. AI is getting better at evading our computers. And so I guess you need to have some sort of trusted source of information. What that trusted source of information is just a hard problem to solve because, I don't know, a lot of countries don't trust their governments. And so who do you get to actually do it?
Maybe it needs to be something from a space like this. I'm not just talking about the AI or the blockchain side, but this collective of startups that's here. Given this stuff that we know we're privy to, we're very privileged to have a space like this, to have access to talks like this. I'm not saying that we've created it just yet, but it's a great point, and I think that maybe a few of us need to come together to create and share and drive something like that. So watch this space, come back to the next event, and maybe something will have happened there. There was another question somewhere. Chan. Oh, don't trip over yourself, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. It was a very great presentation, by the way. Very, very insightful. I guess my question is probably something that's on the back of everyone's mind, which is about where do you think the liability kind of rests in these scenarios? Because you hear about all these bank hacks and the like, and the consumer's always at the end of the chain, and and it's not just the fact that they might end up winning out, but it's the fact that there's time, emotional, heartache that sort of comes along with that. Do you think there could be a point where you can sort of say there's a line that you can sort of draw in the sand where it says, well, this is just consumer stupidity versus this is a normal person should not be able to sort of deal with in that scenario?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it kind of dives into some of the core philosophies of blockchain in general. Do you want more regulation? More regulation will help to stop a lot of these type of things. You can't have protocols that are clearly going to rug someone because they can't get through the regulatory stages. But then that ruins decentralization. And one of the biggest premises of blockchain was decentralization without regulation. And on top of that, it also can hinder innovation as well. It's a very fast-moving industry that's making a lot of mistakes. That's just what happens when you have fast-moving pace. The faster you go, more mistakes you make. That's how things are. But you come up with a lot of new ideas that are really interesting and improve things. So the question is where you want the liability to be. It kind of falls pretty closely, in my opinion, on the regulation question. You could regulate things such that liability is on companies, it's on exchanges, they must refund the users, but a lot of these exchanges hold far more funds than the company's value or anything like that. So what do you do if an exchange, independent reserves, say, held $10 billion and it's only a $1 billion company? Like it doesn't have the assets to pay this back. So I think at the end of the day, you're going to get pretty stuck on this situation that if a company is holding other people's funds, it won't be able to repay back all of the debt.
Let's follow up.
One sec.
In the terms of the cash equities market, there's a thing called a national guarantee fund, and there's a fund that sort of the industry sort of funds for these sorts of scenarios. So do you think that we might end up there so that, that the consumer is protected a bit better than they are at the moment?
Yeah, it's a good question. Someone has actually already started that. A company called Sherlock has tried to do insurance for a lot of blockchain companies. So you can start to insure your protocol. If you get hacked, they will refund it. And it's sort of insurance pool that anyone can put their money in. And you can put the money into Sherlock. We get some fee. And as long as that protocol doesn't get hacked, we'll get our fees and we'll win. And if the protocol does get hacked, then unfortunately we're going to lose our thing and it's going to get paid over to the company. So it's just about pricing that in. Yeah.
Fantastic. I know that there were probably some more questions. We'll get to that in the networking, but and we are well over time, so I'll just round out and do some competition stuff. But Kirk, thank you so much for joining us. Kirk from Sigma Prime. Okay. Yes. Alrighty, back to my station. So you wanna?
Yeah, no, let's just step through. You do your sign up and then they can take sign up later.
Oh, really?
That's awesome.
Okay, cool. All right, let me go back to the sign up page here, the form which you'll be able to scan, and they can just scan this directly.
Yeah.
So if you just scan this directly, fill in this form, we can do the worrying about like making sure that you're, sign up for Kraken. You can do that later and basically scan this QR code because there is crypto castle tickets. Who knows what's inside? Will Fred be wearing a funky outfit? Probably. It's going to happen. So make sure you scan that. Have we got a few folks that have signed up? Yeah? Okay. Yep. Grab the QR code there. Increase your chances. What else is there on the night apart from are there presentations?
This is going to be just a party because there'll be lots of
Okay. If you're happy with drinking Fred Shabesta's drinks from Finder, provided by Kraken, then yeah, please do sign up for that one. And we're going to announce some folks soon. So, check that out. And look, there's going to be some other ways that you can actually get tickets to that kind of stuff as well. Have you got a thing to put up? Okay. All right. We'll come back to that. So just rounding out a few other little things and we'll get to the networking and you saw Origins next, you saw Sigma Prime now. Kraken was announced last month as the new major sponsor. So Stephen here is from the team. Jonathan's overseas. There's some cool stuff that you're going to be seeing going on in terms of some things that we'll try to do in terms of activation, some prizes and merch. Crypto Castle Tour is definitely one of those. I've been. It's a really fun venue. I don't know what it's like when you have a party there, but I can imagine it is off the wall. So there's that. Stand with Crypto. That is something that we're proud to be a part of. This 11,000 signups is probably dwarfed by now, but they're a movement that is across the US, UK, Australia. I don't know if Canada's there as well. They're another nation that really follows suit with us. Aus DeFi is part of this. They are running, and it's on our LinkedIn. The announcement just came out whilst this meetup was on because good old scheduling. But there is a pitch fest that they're running later this year. And it's, if you've got ideas, if you want to build something, there's some cool things in terms of prizes that will go to those folks that are getting involved. The cool thing is the hackathons and pitch fests and things like this are not solely the domain of those who know how to build. AI helps. It's not the be all and end all, but it certainly does help. So watch more in this space with Stand with Crypto. Digital Economy Council, what used to be called Blockchain Australia, is part of them. All Things Blockchain, who do a lot of stuff up in Queensland. Take 3, a great marketing group that is now global. Upside down in Melbourne. Upside down, yeah, that's a sentence. Upside, the group that is down in Melbourne. Aus DeFi links back there. Are we? Oh, it's on my email. Okay. Let's see Mark's email. I'm joking. You're not going to be able to see it. Let me just load. Yeah, no, you're not going to be able to see it. That is the beauty of sharing screens. So let me just bring it up. Is it a link? And then, okay, there's going to be a bit of an interesting thing here. So let me just grab this link. Copy link. Alrighty. I don't know what's going to come here. This hasn't been verified or checked. So I'm opening a link. Sorry, Kirk. Yeah. All right. So there's some names here. Some folks I know are not here. So, all right. I'm going to tap the spin. How many spins do we get? 3 spins for now. Okay. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Something's happening, folks. Dizziness. Kirk won. Yay. All right. Congratulations, Kirk. I don't know if the speakers can get prizes. Let's just say that they can. All right. Bye-bye, Kirk. So removed. Let's go again. If you see your name up there, congratulations. You filled out the form. What is that? Oh, Brett Anslow has left. So Brett we'll speak to him after this. All right. Remove. One more. This is like, I don't know, it's like Duck, Duck, Goose or something. Very fast. All right. The next one is Carolyn. Where's Carolyn Page? Yes, right behind you. Congratulations. All right. So congratulations to the winners. One more? All right. One more. All right. This is what Pokies feels like, right? One more. Anand. Is Anand here? Yes, right at the back. So Carolyn, Anand, Kirk, and Brett. So congratulations to the winners. Amazing stuff there. Thank you, Kraken, for all of that. Here's the Aus DeFi links. There'll be more details. We'll try to see if there's like other things that we can do. If there are in the lead up to the event, any more tickets there. This link takes you back to the link tree. You can see the defi.org.au website. I'll probably leave it up whilst we pack up. And if you have any questions about some of the stuff that we're doing, like I said, networking, if you've got ideas, some great ideas that came out of this, that I need to speak to the quantum people to, get them into this space a bit more, because we have been connected to, but they're not here just yet. And then, about like coming together to try to do stuff that this tech space is about to help those that are not so close to the tech. So let's get back to networking. The time now is 7:24. It'll go till about 8 o'clock before I unfortunately turn into an ogre and try to kick you out. But I appreciate you guys. Help me finish off the drinks, help me finish off the pizza and whatever chicken nugget bites I bought on the side. And thank you for coming along.